Heidi-ho YouTubers. Mrs. Goat Hollow and I have been living here in the wilds of northern Arizona for about 3 years now, a little over. And I thought I would chat with you today about a few of the myths that are surrounding off-grid life. So let's start with this one. I have a real good local friend who also has a YouTube channel. He posted a video a while back and mentioned that they were going to go to the grocery store. Now for him that's quite a distance, but the internet trolls came out of the woodwork insisting that he and his family couldn't live off-grid because they're going to the grocery store for food. Well, here's the thing, folks. Off-grid living doesn't mean that you have to live like Grizzly Adams. It means that you're living without a number of public utilities. If you want to make a comment on that, Google it up first. There are dozens of dictionary notations, and they all list living off-grid means that you are living without one or more of a list of public utilities. My definition is you don't have any pipes or wires coming into your property. That's pretty plain and simple. It doesn't mean that living off-grid means you have to live like a caveman. It doesn't mean that you have to live without modern conveniences. We have a big screen TV and all the home appliances that somebody in a suburban home would. We live on solar power, and we have hot and cold running water, and all of those things. We are about as remote as you can get in the lower 48 states. What do I mean by that? Well, it's about a 50-mile round trip to the nearest place we can buy a gallon of milk. And it's about 120 miles round trip to the nearest supermarket, Home Depot, Walmart, any of those places. And that trip, a good chunk of it, is over some pretty darn sketchy roads. And sometimes we can't even make it in four-wheel drive with all-terrain tires and off-road suspension. So we are pretty remote. When we know the roads are going to be bad, we have to think about whether we have what we need to get through a week or so of living, have enough milk, etc., until the roads dry back out. But it doesn't mean if you're off-grid that you have to live like Jeremiah Johnson in a mud hut in the middle of the woods somewhere. Obviously we are in the woods, subsisting on nothing but grizzly livers 3 meals a day. It just means that you've given up the public utilities and those conveniences, and are trying to provide those things for yourself. Okay, well, this next myth, I guess I will call it, I'm not going to totally debunk this, but let's have some discussion. Because we do live off-grid, we have no utility bills whatsoever. Now, we were fortunate enough to save up some money, and we had equity in our house and where we moved from, and we own our place free and clear. We don't have a mortgage. We don't have any utilities, very few monthly bills. We do have Starlink, and that keeps us connected. But other than taxes and insurance, we got nothing else. So it means that we do live cheaply on a day-to-day basis. Now let me temper that, because a lot of people think they can move to the middle of nowhere and do just fine. But we lived 6 months in an RV before our house was in good enough shape to move into. We had some people we knew that were local, didn't live very far away at all. They lived in a camper trailer and had not enough solar power. Their heater would go out in the middle of the night because they didn't have enough power to run the fan on the heater. We had some of the same problems in our RV, and let me tell you, you wake up at 3 in the morning and you can see your breath. That's not living, folks. That sucks. But we're able to provide all of our own utilities except for propane. We do use propane without bringing anything else in from the outside world. Okay, let's talk about the romance of living off-grid. It's not terribly romantic. It's very quiet. You are living life. That's all. Not a real big deal. We still live. We still have to do our dishes every 2 or 3 times a day. We have to do laundry. We also have to think about some things that you folks in the city don't have to think about. We have to conserve our water, and we use way less water than the average American. We have to make sure every night that we have enough solar power in our batteries to get through the night. And all of those kinds of things. So we're living life normally. And there's some stress to our life, but it's not all romance. It's maybe a better way of living, in my opinion, but you can take that or leave it. And here's my last myth that I want to debunk. If you move off grid, you are not going to sit on the couch and eat bonbons, folks. That's a big myth. I think I work harder now than I did when I was working for a paycheck. there are probably a dozen, if not 2 dozen, things on my list of things I want to do. Right now I'm working on a woodshed. Next is a greenhouse that I've got to put together, and then another shed, and fencing, and the list goes on and on. So you're working pretty damn hard. Now I'm an old fart, and I've had 2 strokes, so my stamina is not as good as it used to be. But I still get out there and work for quite a while every day, trying to get things done here, and everything I do and everything I accomplish when I finish a project here on our homestead, there's a great deal of satisfaction to it, because I know that I did something with my own 2 hands, completed it, it turned out well, and it's going to have a major impact on our lives. I probably put in hundreds of hours of effort into our solar system. It works like a charm now, and everything is running like a sewing machine with it, although it doesn't make any noise. And I know that at least for the next 10 years or so, till I have to replace batteries, we're going to have electricity without a utility bill, without an electric bill. For you folks in Canada, that'd be hydro, right? So everything I do accomplish here on our homestead gets us a little more self-sufficient and a little more resilient to what's going on in the world out there. And we're getting closer and closer to the point where we won't have to go to the supermarket or Home Depot or any of those places, but very, very rarely. Okay, well, I hope that cleared a couple things up, my incoherent rambling. But hopefully that will straighten some things out for you. And if you're thinking about moving off grid, then maybe it might be some things to consider for you. Well, we'll get through this, and I'll see you next time.